ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। शुक्लांबरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। यस्य विरदवक्त्राद्याः पारिषद्याः परस्सतम् विघ्नं निघ्नन्ति सततं विश्वक्सेनं तमाश्रये। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुर्साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघ्यते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे परमानन्दमाधवम्। With Bhagwan's grace, we came up to slokam number 5, right? Let us do that. Uddharete atmana atmanam na atmanam avasadayete atmaiva hi atmano bandhuhu atmaiva ripuhu atmanah. One needs to uplift oneself by oneself. It's got to be a self-effort, is what Bhagwan says. Let me 6.5, right? Okay. 6.5. One must progress by one's own efforts. One must not put oneself down because one is one's own friend and enemy as well. Is it not so? The Bhagwan is asking. Slokam number 7. He who has mastered himself is his own friend. So the question comes, who is his friend? He who has mastered himself is his own friend. He who has not mastered himself becomes his own enemy and plays the role of an opponent to himself. Bandhuratmana tasya yenatmaiva atmanajitah anatmanastu satrutve vartetamaiva satruvat. Bandhuratmatmanah tasya yenatmaiva atmanajitah anatmanastu satrutve vartetatmaiva satruvat. The padangal are bandhuhu atma atmana atma atmanah tasya yena atmayeva atmana jitah anatmanah tu satruhu tu tve. Okay. Vartetatma eva satruvat. Varteta atmaiva satruvat. Varteta atma eva satruvat. Bandhuhu atmatmanah atmanah tasya yena atma eva atmana jitah anatmanah tu satruhu tu varteta atma eva satruvat. Yena, by whom? Atmana eva, by himself. Atma jitaha, he has. But the previous thing it says one needs to progress by one's effort. One who has mastered himself by his own efforts. Tasya, for him. Atma, he. Atmanaha, for himself. Bandhuhu, is his relative. Tu, but. Anatmanaha, one who has not mastered himself. Atma eva, one who has not mastered himself. He himself, Shatruvat, as enemy, Shatrutve, with enmity, Varteta, happens, he becomes, he continues like that. So one who has mastered himself, which means one who has controlled the senses, mind turned toward Bhagavan, that becomes, he is his best relative, best friend. But one who has not mastered himself, like mind going all over the places, going through pleasures and pain and misery and all these things, right? For him, because he has not mastered himself, he himself becomes his own enemy. Because all the actions that a person who has not mastered himself takes is almost like in opposition to what is really benefit for the person, isn't it? That is what Bhagavan says. Bandhuratmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jitah anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. Number 7. So self-effort is very important. That's what Bhagavan says here. Even though Bhagavan's grace is there all the time, self-effort is very, very important. Number 8. He who is content, having experienced the truth of the scriptural teachings, who has mastered his senses, and who perceives sand, stone, and gold as the same, is said to be skilled in embracing the indweller. See, very important is when we have all the scriptural teachings, but suppose say we take it as face value, we believe in that, we have faith, so we take that, we don't question it. But suppose for a second, we put those scriptural teachings in practice. Satyam vada, it says that, okay? Speak the truth. As an example I'm saying. Now, we put that into practice and we tell ourselves, okay, I'll speak the truth. Satyam bruyat, priyam bruyat, na satyam bruyat apriyam. Let me take that as an example. Speak the truth. Speak it lovingly, priyam bruyat. Na satyam bruyat apriyam. Do not speak truth if it is going to cause hurt. Right? For example, if somebody is obese, and what is the point in telling that person you're obese and fat? That's going to cause some hurt, isn't it? So basic things like that. So there are many guidance and guidelines and teachings. Suppose we pick one of them and then put it into practice. Then what happens? We experience the truth of those teachings, of those statements. So both are important. So this is what Bhagavan is talking about in this case, to experience the truth of the scriptural teachings, right? Now, what is the slokam says? Let me get my class on. Number 8. Number 7.
Number 7.
I haven't finished number 7. Okay. Let me cover 8 first, because since I gave the meaning of it, okay, then we'll go back to 7. Because the teachings are all the same, right? You can pick any slokam and you can cover the whole Bhagavad Gita in that. Number 8 says, Jnana Vijnana Truptatma Kutastaha Vichitendriyaha Yukta Iti Uchyate Yogi Samalostasma Kanchanaha. Jnana Vijnana Truptatma Kutasto Vichitendriyaha Yukta Ityuchate Yogi Samalostasma Kanchanaha. The padangal are Jnana Vijnana Truptatma Kutastaha Vijita Indriyaha Yuktaha Iti Uchyate Yogi Sama Loshta Asma Kanchanaha. Okay. Now Jnanam Vijnanam. Vijnanam means we take immediately in our mind goes into those of us who educated in Madras, we see the science book immediately says Vijnanam, right? So Vijnanam we think immediately means science. No, it is not that. Actually, Jnanam is what Bhagavan said, the knowledge of the, whether we call it wisdom, knowledge, whatever it is, the Jnanam is nothing but the experience, the awareness of being one with the indweller, right? Now, so what is Vijnanam? The appellation V before that has got several connotations. In this particular, like, Sargam, Visargam, we say like that, right? So in this case, Vijnanam, what it means, that particular indweller, that knowledge, that awareness is manifested itself in so many ways, right? So that the myriad and varied manifestations of that, right? That is what Vijnana means. So, Jnana Vijnana Triptatma. Tripti Atma. Tripti means samtripti. Samtripti means contentment. Contentment, when does contentment come? Only when there is fulfillment. When there is full, it is fully contented. When you don't desire anything more. So what does it mean? That in this particular case, the Atma, this person, who has not only taken Jnana, in this case, the spiritual teachings, because that is the way, that's how we are taught, but Vijnanam, he also has practiced the teachings, and by his personal practice, he has realized the truth of those statements, the Vijnanam. Because he has realized the truth, he has become Triptatma, he has become contented. So he understood that. So Jnana, Vijnana, Triptatma, Kutastaha. Kutastaha means unshakable, very firm. And there are two meanings for Kutastaha. Okay, Kutam means the peak of a mountain, right? So like, it's the most exalted position, the highest position, right? You can picture it that way. Not only that, back in villages in India, they would have a huge stone that's absolutely unshakable, unbreakable stone. On that, they'll be hitting many things. May they be even hitting iron rod to sharpen it, or clothes, or whatever it is, right? But the big stone, big rock will remain unshaken. And not only unshaken, unbroken, unmoved. So like stiram, okay, like unshakable. Kutastaha. Jnana Vijnana Triptatma. Having experienced and tasted the bliss of the indweller, he remains firmly established in that. Vijita Indriyaha. The moment he starts embracing the indweller, automatically the senses become under your control. One who has mastered the senses, one who's controlling the senses. That person, Yuktaha iti uchyate. The Yuktaha, as we saw earlier, is somebody who's very good in what they do, highly skilled, like M.S. Subbulakshmi singing Carnatic music. I mean, so not only her voice, but because of practice, how excelled she became. Like even if you take a tennis player, all these people, Olympic champion, they all become very good in what they do through practice and continuous practice and practice. So that Yuktaha iti uchyate. Yogi is also a yogi, which means he has become one with Bhagavan. He's in that process, is very exalted. So what happens to him when he's like that? One who started tasting the truth of the spiritual teachings, controlling the senses, and firmly and with serum, with discipline follows that. For him, Loshta, Asma, Kanchanaha. Loshta means sand. Okay. Aspa is stone, and Kanchanaha is gold. All these sama, they all appear one and the same. There is no differentiation for him. Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Kutasto Vijitendriyaha Yukta Ityuchyate Yogi Samaloshtasma Kanchanaha. Now number 7. He who has mastered himself stays peaceful and undisturbed with the opposing sensations of cold and heat, pleasure and pain. He remains peaceful and unperturbed by honor and humiliation. His peace is firm and stable. Who is the one who has mastered himself, who has embraced the indweller? Okay, that basically who has expanded his heart and becomes one with the selfless love. He has mastered himself. So the slokam is Jitatmanaha Prasantasya Paramatma Samahitaha Sitoshna Sukha Dukkeshu Tatha Mana Apamanayoho. Jitatmanaha Prasantasya Paramatma Samahitaha Sitoshna Sukha Dukkeshu Tatha Manapamanayoho. Jita Atmanaha Prasantasya Parama Atma Samahitaha Sita Ushna Sukha Dukkha Eshu Tatha mana apamanayoho. Sitoshna sukha dukkeshu. Sita ushna sukha dukkeshu. Sita ushna cold and heat. Sukham dukkam is pleasure and pain. Yeshu, in all these things. Tata, same way. In the same way, mana means honor, right? Apamana means humiliation, opposite of that. So man apamana yoho, in honor as well as in humiliation, jitatmanaha, because mastering himself, one who has mastered himself, prasantasya, one who has got a peaceful disposition. Mind is always at peace. There is no agitation. Santam. Prasantasya. Paramatma. When who's so peaceful, what happens to him? Paramatma, as Ravana Maharishi was, and he himself said, the oneness or in the proximity of Bhagavan, the oneness, that Paramatma, Samahitaha, it will be there unshakably forever. Jitatmanaha prasantasya Paramatma Samahitaha Sitoshna Sukha Dukkheshu Tata Mana Pamanayoho. Now, slokam number 9. Overall meaning is, he who perceives the uniting common thread among the good-hearted people is very important. This slokam is so, oh my God, it is so such a close teaching to our daily life. Okay, you don't have to be so spiritually advanced and all these things. If you just remember the basic simplicity of this teaching, it will really help us in our daily life, okay? Even in our daily worldly life, okay? He who perceives the uniting common thread among the good-hearted people, friends, enemies, people minding their own business without being concerned with either helping or harming others, people who are neutral in their disposition, people given to hatred, relatives, noble souls and sinners, that person who perceives the uniting common thread is most exalted indeed. So what does this mean? We see all kinds of people in our life. And how should we perceive them, right? And that is the teaching here. Slokam number 9. Suhrun mitrar yudasina madhyastha dveshya bandhushu. I'll break it up for you in a minute. Sadhushvapi cha papeshu samabuddhir visishyate. Suhrun mitraha udasinam adhyastha dveshya bandhushu. Udasina madhyastha dveshya bandhushu sadhuhu api cha papeshu samabuddhi visishyate. Padangal are Suhrun, Mitra, Ari, Udasina, Madhyastha, Dveshya, Bandhushu, Sadhushu api, Cha, Papeshu, Sama Buddhihi, Visishyate. Suhruna, friends, people. Suhruna means one who has got your welfare in mind. He is a friend. Bhagavan, we said, as Sarvabhutanam Suhrat, right? We saw that earlier. So one who has got good heart, well-disposed heart, he wants your welfare, well-being all the time. Suhruna. So we call it as people well-disposed, people with good-hearted people. Okay. Mitra is friend. Ari is enemy. Udasina means, it's kind of, we say in Madras, don't care attitude. But actually, that Udasina means not really be bothered with what is happening. Okay, that is what Udasina means. They kind of mind their own business without being concerned with either helping or hurting others. Okay, so there are that kind of people also we come across, right? So Udasinam does not mean alakshyam. Okay, it does not mean they are
ignoring you or anything like that. Okay, their attitude is they mind their business, they're not bothered, they neither help nor hurt, right? They're not concerned with what happens to others. So that udasina. Madhyastha. Madhyastha, or we come across all these people in our daily life. Madhyastha means people who got neutral disposition. Even when you're sitting around and talking to people, some people take positions, they're opinionated, they're quite passionate about this or that. And some people are just neutral. They are neither bothered with this, not disturbed by it, And so those kind of neutral disposition people, Madhyastha, Dveshya, people who have got hatred. And we know them. They are very, very negative energy. When you meet some people and when you walk away from them, your mind is disturbed and all of a sudden because their negative vibrations impact quite a bit. Same way, when you are among people who have got good disposition, good mind, beneficial disposition, and peaceful mind, you come away happy in that surrounding. So Dveshya means people who got hatred. Okay, that disposition. Bandhushu, relatives. Sadhushu api. Sadhu. Sadhu, who is a sadhu? Who is a Godward bound person. A good person. A good person is what? A good person is a Godward bound person. They are interested in hearing about Bhagavan, hearing about God, talking about God, and they are in that pathway. People who are disposed that way, they are all sadhus. You hear only about love and about Bhagavan, all these leelas and stories and glories and all those things, right? Sadhu api, and papeshu cha, sinners. We know people who do cruel things. Okay, knowingly they do cruel things. So all those various people that we come across, sama buddhi. One, sama means not equal. Remember, sama means oneness. And it means there is a common thread that's a thread that's common to all these various characteristics that Bhagavan just talked about, because everything is part and parcel of the universal body, Bhagavan's body, right? So we don't differentiate between our feet. We do differentiate between our feet and hand and eyes and nose and all that, but we differentiate it because they appear different, but we also see the common thread, right? It's my body, therefore the same blood is flowing through. I don't see any differentiation in that sense. That way one who can see the common thread, the fact that the selfless love that is binding everyone, that is flowing through each one who sees everything as one there, samabuddhihi, he is visishyate. Visishyate means most exalted. Okay, that is what they say. Bhagavan is saying this. Suhrun mitrar yudasina madhyastha dveshya bandhushu sadhushvapi cha papeshu samabuddhir visishyate. Now slokum number 10. The person who wants to embrace divinity. Now Bhagavan talked about what happens when you embrace divinity, so you can master yourself, and that's an effort that you have to do by yourself. If you don't do that, then you become your own enemy and all those things. Now the question comes, Swami, how do I master myself? How do I embrace the indweller? What should I do? So he says, the person who wants to embrace divinity must always, in the privacy of solitude, install himself with the indweller. He must control his body and mind, must be without desires and possessive tendencies. So Bhagavan has given a prescription. If this is what you want to do, this is the path you want to do, then you must be like this. And next he's going to tell you how to begin to get that. Okay? So the qualifications are, if you want to embrace divinity, you must always, in the privacy of solitude, which means you can be doing many things. You can be cooking, driving a car, doing your work at office or whatever it is. But there is always you are with yourself, that you know, that awareness and consciousness, and that privacy of that solitude, you must install yourself with the indweller. That means you must think of Bhagavan as often as you can. And even if you're not continuous, it's all right, nothing wrong. Go back and think of the favorite form that you got, and install that favorite form in your heart, and that one form has to have only one name. Repeat the name and think of the form. Okay? That's what installing yourself with the indweller. Then you must control your body and mind. Must be without desires. Without desires, to have zero desires it looks very impossible. So let's not worry about it. We can start decreasing our desires. We can put a ceiling on desires, right? And then we can control the tendencies to acquire things. That's very simple to do. Very simple, not difficult at all. The possessive the tendencies we must control. These are the qualifications given, requirements given, slokam number 10. Yogi yunjita satatamatmanam rahasi stitaha ekaki yata chittatma nirasihi aparigraha. Very important. Aparigraha, very important word. Okay, we'll talk about that. Yogi yunjita satatamatmanam rahasi stitaha ekaki yata chittatma nirasihi aparigraha. Padangal are Yogi yunjita satatam atmanam rahasi stitaha ekaki yata chittatma nirasihi aparigraha. Yogi, one who desires to embark in this part of yoga. In this case, we're not talking yoga rutahala. We're talking about the person who wants to begin, one who wants to touch the Lord, feel the Lord, experience Him, right? Yogi, or talk to Him, whatever you want. Yogi, that person, rahasi. Rahasi in this case, rahasi means, Tamil we say rahasya means secret. It is not secret. Rahasi means ekantam. That's solitude. Okay? There's nothing secret about it, but it's a privacy, if you want to call it that way. Privacy. Sitaha established in that. Ekaki in solitude. Rahasi is privacy. Ekaki is solitude. Okay? Then yata chitta atma. Yata we saw earlier, one who is bringing it back to control. Chitta atma. Chitta means mind, the various mental impulses. And Atma means the body in this case. One who has controlled the mind and body or pulling it inward. Nirasihi. Without desires. Aparigraha. Very important. We all parigraha and aparigraha. There is aparigraha itself is a yoga. Okay? We talked about dhyana yoga, bhakti yoga, and karma yoga, and all. Aparigraha yoga is also there. In Bhagavad Gita, there are infinite pathways to touch the Lord, and every pathway is a yoga. Okay? It's a yoga. So aparigraha means not wanting to acquire. Not wanting to acquire. When I want to acquire something, I'm taking it away from somebody, that may belong to somebody else. You know what I'm saying? It's a very, if I go there and try to push myself in the front, I'm making that opportunity devoid for somebody else, right? I'm taking it away from somebody else. You have to be very careful how, in the Godward path, how we should behave. So aparigraha, without acquisitive desires, so that you don't disturb anything. Say in the what example is in Parikshit kingdom, Dharma. He was so particular about dharma and make sure that everything is done righteously for the welfare of the society and everything else. Everybody was so happy, and dharma was followed to the tilt. So much so, the story goes in Bhagavatam, that if there is a piece of cloth or a leaf or something lying on the ground, even the wind will think twice before moving that leaf away, because he doesn't want to take it away. That means that disturbing something there, right? So there is so much fineness and subtlety in this field, because we cannot understand all of them and we cannot be aware of all of them all the time or even at any given time. That is the reason the prescription is given. Don't worry about all that. You just think of me, is what Bhagavan says. So the moment you start thinking of the Lord seated in your heart, in its name and form, all the other things will automatically result. Okay, so yogi, so we went through the meanings, right? Okay, yogi yunchita satatam atmanam rahasi sthitah ekaki yata chittatma nirasihi aparigrahah. So with that we will close for today. Our time is up. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastalokaha Sukhino Bhavantu.